Welcome to Practical Talk Time. I'm your host, Usha Kumar. Last week, I had a wonderful guest, Kratka, and she and I discussed how some healing can be done to people and how people can be given some coaching in order to better themselves. This is a continuation of last week's program. And so please join me in welcoming Ellen. Ellen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Usha. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me back.
Last week we started talking about the Yuen method, where you're the Yuen method master. And for those who just tuned in today, I'd like to give them a little introduction about you. So you have a degree in science, and then again you were doing your PhD in physics, and then you taught high school physics before you wandered off into the world to do other things.
Right. Wandered down to Central America to do some journalism, and worked in an auto factory for a while, and some other things. All kinds of things.
You did assembly work. You did photojournalism in Nicaragua, right?
Yes.
Was it? And then you came into energy healing and healing yourself, and now you're into trying to heal other people. And that is a wonderful journey. And I'm sure you have some successes, right?
Yes.
So I'd like to ask you about that this time. So please tell us a little bit about this journey.
Well, as you said, it's been kind of a journey through the realms of consciousness and the different understanding about how people think and how energy works. And during the break, we were talking a little bit about science and women making their way through the science professions and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So,
I think when we were growing up, it was a dream to be a NASA scientist, right? At some point, NASA astronaut, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't want to myself necessarily go into space, but I wanted to be one of the people who really came to understand the secrets of the universe and how the cosmos worked, find the last secret. So I was actually, I got into the field of field theory, which is, finding the theory of everything, how it all comes together. So I'm making little inroads in that even now.
So field theory would apply to material, all kinds of material?
Field theory is
the earth?
Yeah, it's really like the basic understanding of the different forces that operate in nature and unifying them into one. So, you have the electromagnetic force and you have gravitational force, and there are other forces called the strong and weak force, and it's really understanding how those all, at what point they come together and how they all work and create the reality that we see. So at this point, what I'm doing is understanding how consciousness creates the reality that we experience, because even in quantum theory they talk about how the reality is influenced and actually created by the observer. When you observe, then you bring it into being. So consciousness and the role of the observer and the intention of us, and each observer has a very important part to play in how our bodies develop and how our outer experience develops in our work, our relationships, and that's why everyone has such a different experience. So I'm still playing in those realms, but in kind of just a different way.
You first tried to heal yourself, and you were successful.
Absolutely.
Obviously, very successful at it. And so now you're helping others find themselves, or what are you helping them with, and who is a prime candidate who can be helped like this?
So before I forget, let me just say that if people would like to see a video of the work that I do, just to get an idea of how quick it is and how it goes, if they go to my website, which is resultsbeyondbelief.com, and then / actually they don't even have to do a / they can just go to the Yuen method demo page, and that's just a video to watch.
And it's a free video?
It's a free video, and it's actually my teacher demonstrating the work, and it's so unique that I like to say, tell people they can see it there.
I see.
So a candidate for me would be anyone who has any problem or unresolved question about any area of their life. So very often I'll have people come to me with physical problems, diseases or different conditions or things, and they want to feel better. Or they haven't gotten answers or solutions from doctors or other kinds of healers. Or it might be someone who's experiencing relationship problems or career or work challenges, business challenges, not making enough money, performance issues, pretty much anything you can think of, because it means that there's something in the consciousness that is creating that experience, and that needs to be changed in order.
So basically, they're not satisfied with whatever they've been doing, or they're not satisfied with something.
Yeah.
With their success, or
it could be
their happiness.
It could be what they're doing. It could be their own well-being and sense of being in the world. It could be their relating to other people. It could be their having, that they feel that they're not receiving what they want, and and money and other things.
Yeah, very often I find that people do look at television shows, not like ours, but the ones where and big advertisements. Where things are shown in a different light, and they're shown better and in so many ways. And people think, okay, that's the goal to achieve. And that is an impossible goal. Because if you look at models themselves, if you saw them without the light and with all the touch-ups on the photographs or the pictures, they don't look the same. And they look like any other person, an ordinary person. And then again, they always show youth. And so people that are slightly older start to feel depressed because of the looks, how things change. So those things I think people have to understand, just grow up and mature and be smart enough to know that what you see is not real. Those kind of things that you see, whether it's movies or these advertisements. But then on the other hand, they do see what's real, right? At work, if they're not achieving something. Or in life, they're not achieving certain things with people. And this has more to do with relationships. And at work, I don't know what it is, but you can tell me what it is.
Well, the kind of conditioning you're talking about has been going on for thousands of years, really, and it's all convinced people that there's something missing in their lives, that they're defective in some way. And so then that just, that accumulates more and more to the point where, people, there's something missing in themselves, and basically it comes down to a lack of self-love. And so then people look to outer places to fill that in. And so a lot of what I'm doing is really helping people get back in touch with their own center, their own value, their own heart, and to re-experience that. And then once you have that strong center and your sense of your worth and also your uniqueness, then you tend to be much less swayed or influenced by those other things in the world.
So is your work more like, like a personal development coach, or is it more like a healing kind of coach?
Well, in some ways it's like neither, because a coach mostly focuses on talking and what's happening at the mental level. And what I'm doing is looking at and feeling what's happening in the person's energy field and what's underlying, what are the causes underneath that they're not aware of consciously, and we're just finding them and deleting them. It's like hitting the delete button on the computer. So in that way, it's much faster and a lot less talking than coaching, and I find much more effective. With healers, a lot of healers are, there's different schools of thought. Some of them are bringing in energy and thinking that the person needs more energy to change, and I'm not doing that, because as we talked about last time, what I've found is that people access their own energy when they need it, again, if the blockages or things that are affecting that are gone. And that's my job, is just to get rid of the stuff in the road that's causing them to not bring in the energy they want. So I'm not doing that. And I'm also, a lot of healers do something that's a little bit similar to what I do, but much more generally. they might work with certain beliefs and things, but I'm looking very specifically at what are causing those things, and it may be 100 causes, or it may be that there's one thing that's being held literally in your organs of your body, and another thing that's being held at the level of the cells in the body. So I'm finding very specifically what's going on physically, mentally, and spiritually that the person needs to shift.
In this day and age, with all the rules that we have in this country, with certifications needed for this and for that and for that, those are for the very healthcare oriented areas, right? There are some conditions. So how does your work come into play here? So is it used in addition to whatever health care that they might be getting, or can people just come and try to heal themselves?
Yeah, well, there is a certification for what I'm doing, so that's why I'm technically called a master, because I've gotten to the highest level of certification. So there are other people who, and in fact I teach people to do even just the basics of what I do so they can help themselves on a daily basis. But as you learn more and you've worked with it more, then you're able to do more and more, you can see more and more, and so it's, you're much more competent and can assist people in all different kinds of things. And that's really taken me a few years now to get to that point. In terms of, other kinds of certified or licensed work like doctors or other things, what I tell people is to follow their own guidance. So I've gotten to a point in my own life where I no longer feel a need to work with a doctor or any other kind of professional. I do things on myself. I use my methods on myself, and I also work with other people who are at the same level of competency. For me, we'll do exchange sessions. And I decided that for myself, I can actually get a more accurate diagnosis of what's going on with myself than I have seen, that people are getting from doctors. And so, because if the diagnosis is right by virtue of the system and of how we work, by acknowledgement, the problem should really go away. If that's really the cause of the problem, then just by acknowledging it, the energy system should change to match the new awareness, the new consciousness. And the fact that people's problems aren't going away is because the true source of the problem has not been found or described to the person.
So they don't even know what the real problem is.
Exactly, yeah.
They only see the symptoms as problems.
Right.
So when a person finds out what's wrong in their body, they listen to themselves, they find out where the blockage is, then how can that person get rid of that blockage?
Yeah, well, it's not just about where it is in the body and what's going on. It's about, although sometimes that is enough. If somebody says, I have a stomach ache, and I tell them, well, actually it's coming from the base of your spine, and let's just put a little bit of awareness there and strengthen that, and then their stomach ache will go away. So sometimes it's as simple as where or what's blocked in the body. Sometimes it's a matter of finding the underlying consciousness that has caused that. So, if they say, well, gee, I have a stomach ache and I don't know what's going on, and I say, well, what I'm picking up from the energy field is that you're actually feeling that you did something wrong and you're going to get caught at it. And then having acknowledged that,
so that tension or that fear is causing the stomach ache.
And then if that's exactly what it was, and if there's no need to get more specific, then the problem will disappear at that point. If it doesn't disappear, it means either we need to get more specific, like what is it that you think you did wrong, or there may be some other layer of cause also. And sometimes there's a few different things going on.
So in modern day life, where people keep talking a lot about stress, and I'm thinking stress must have been there in different ways throughout history, I guess. So what are the stresses that people undergo now, and what do you see as symptoms?
Yeah, well, I think there is a lot more stress nowadays because we're, number one, when we moved into the industrial system, And so you left your village and you had to keep very long hours, and you had to kind of work along with a machine or keep up the same speed as a machine, doing the same task over and over, losing relationships. You know, we went from extended families and villages and tribes down to, you know, like being a single mom like I am. A lot of expectations and a lot of conditioning, as you said, of, you know, you need to buy this and do this and you're not okay if you don't. So there is a lot more stress in our kind of society, and I'm hoping that in the future we, you know, we go back to a place of more connection.
So can a person simplify their lives?
Oh, absolutely, sure. You know, there's lots of ways of doing that.
With their entire living.
Yeah, but I would say to do anything, to make any change in your life, whether it's something like that or whether it's, you know, healing your body or whatever you want, you need to be in alignment with that energetically. So when you not just mentally believe something is possible, but when that belief exists at every level of your being, down to the quantum particles and beyond, then that's something that's going to happen. It's just going to take place. You're going to make it happen. But the things that there's, you know, there's a part of you, even if you're not fully aware of it, that believes that's not possible, or I don't deserve that, or if I do that, other people are going to be mad at me for leaving them. You know, there's all of these different imprints and influences that we're holding. So if those things are operating, then you're not going to simplify your life or heal your body or whatever. So that's my job, is to help bring them into energetic alignment with what they want.
So I see. So how does one know that they've taken care of their problems?
When it no longer feels like a problem. You don't have a question about it. It just, you know, doesn't feel like a problem. You know, I have clients, for example, I have one client I'm thinking of who is an extremely successful business consultant, and he's worked with organizations and firms all around the world, and to him that's just second nature. You know, he loves it. He could do it in his sleep. Right? So he's in alignment with that. But then in another area of his life, he has problems to the point where he's suffering and emotionally upset and having a difficult time with it. And he's changed a lot. We've been working together for a while. But, you know, he would ask that question, how come?
So what can one change?
Well, so we're working on, again, finding the underlying causes of why, you know, all of the early life experiences, as you had mentioned earlier, you know, things that happened with his family that affected him emotionally, that made him feel insecure, things that came from his ancestors, you know, all kinds of things going on like that. So as we find them and clear them, he's just been getting stronger and stronger and feeling better about his life and about his relationship.
That's good, at least, right? At least now he's getting the help that he needs. I think that's very important, that a person understands what's going on in their bodies, in their minds, in their hearts.
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes, you know, I have to ask you this, because they say that every cell changes, you know, like once in 7 years you get all new cells.
Yeah.
So how does the cell memory remain, and does energy really change? Can a person change over that period?
Yeah. Well, I think we change a lot over that period. Some people are more ready to change or more able to change than others. You know, some people do it faster, some people do it slower. But there's a theory called morphic resonance that says that the memory, that the information is actually held in the field. So the field around and throughout our bodies. Okay. And so as a cell develops, it's really picking up the information that's already held in the field. It's like the soup that it's swimming in. So
what,
the memory is there.
What all information gets imprinted there? It's their experiences, their
everything
environment.
they've ever experienced, not just in this life, but also, you know, the other lifetimes or virtual reality. All of the memories that they have from their ancestors and their descendants and other family, and everything that's ever happened is basically, we have access to all of the information.
And so how does that make a person happy or sad? I mean, what does it do?
Well, if it's something that, you know, I believe on a spiritual level, that as a spiritual being, people come into the life deciding, into a particular life deciding that they're going to be working on something. You know, they want to have certain kinds of experiences, or they want to learn from certain things. And so, you know, they may come in with some health challenges or with relationship issues. Sometimes it doesn't show up till later in life, because in the younger years we're very active in the outer world, and, you know, but then as there's an accumulation and we realize, hey, I've got some baggage I'm carrying around, or I'm not feeling so good now that I've hit my 40s or 50s or whatever. So then the life challenges and the lessons and the things that are out of balance become apparent, and that's when the problems show up. So as the problems show up, then we are able to address them. And again, I found a technology that I think is wonderful because it's very fast and very effective, a way to the Yuen method, as a way to, you know, to get rid of the causes of the problems so that we can be happier and more neutral to life, you know, more at peace and well-being.
Could you tell us a little bit about your teacher, the one who started the Yuen method?
Dr. Cam Yuen. He was a Shaolin Grand Master of Kung Fu, so he comes from that lineage in China. He's originally from China. He had martial arts schools around the world and was very famous for training, including a lot of celebrities. In fact, there was a TV program called Kung Fu, and he was the mentor and the coach for Carradine, who was the star of the show. I always get mixed up between David and Keith. I believe it's Keith Carradine. And then he was studying engineering. He was going to be a scientist and an engineer, so he has that very practical kind of side. And then he became a chiropractor, and he worked with many, many patients. He did thousands and thousands of patient hours.
With martial arts, they're bound to get hurt, and
maybe that was the connection.
They have to know chiropractic skills.
But as he was working with people, he just started experimenting. He realized he could feel energetically what was happening in their bodies, and that when he acknowledged what the true causes of the problems were, that the things would just clear up. So he started doing it, and over the years, I mean, he's been doing this now for about 30 years, so he just kept refining the system, and, you know, it's being upgraded all the time, just like a good computer program gets upgraded. So, you know, this year it's different from last year, and he's taught many, many students around the world.
Yeah, I'm finding it very interesting that so many alternate methods of healing, learning, changing old belief systems that don't work, you know, all of these are now in vogue. I think it's up to a person to see what they need to change themselves, if they want to change for the better. I know that with summer approaching, everyone is taking care of their physical health.
Yeah, they want to look
They're
good.
trying to lose weight or start on their, you know, New Year resolution, which they didn't really start on, to lose weight, to exercise. But I think it's important to have some kind of balanced approach to everything, and listen to your body and listen to your mind, right?
Yeah, and I agree. People need to follow their own guidance about what's right for them. If your guidance tells you, you know, get involved in a particular regimen of supplements or a particular diet, or go out and take a beautiful walk in nature, or make some new friends, you know, change your housing or your relationship situation, or seek out a particular modality, then I think people should follow that. That's what I did, you know, and I was kind of led from one thing to another that assisted me.
I find one thing, you know, different people have different activities that make them happy. One person likes to sing, another would like to sit and read a book, another might just play video games or watch TV, or do gardening, whatever it is, knitting, crocheting, painting. But then what's happening is when others get judgmental about it, because they think another person is normal only if they enjoy the same things that this person enjoys, right? So what do you say to that? Because you can't change everybody else around you in their life.
Exactly, you can't.
And so some of the stressors around you, whether at work, at home, in social situations, how does one deal with that, even if you change yourself?
Well, what I found is that our outer world really exists as a reflection of what's inside. So if somebody is experiencing a lot of judgment against what they're doing or on them, about them, and it's bothering them, it's because there's a part of them that to some degree is also feeling judgmental of themselves or insecure, like maybe what I'm doing isn't really right or good. And so the reflection helps you see that. And you can use that and then change it.
For example, some kids love to play on video games, right? Or they want to be rollerblading. But then there's another person saying, hey, don't be doing that. You know? You should be doing this instead, or that. Just because it's their favorite pastime, and they think that everybody else should be having that same pastime.
Well, and of course, I wish that all children were really supported to be unconditionally loved. And when they're not, then very often I believe in some cases, it's actually part of their life plan to deal with that challenge, to reclaim their own sense of value and worth and importance despite what happened, in the family or whatever.
Oh, so
they become stronger for it.
So you're saying if there are experiences that are challenging or difficult, it's just that they're meant to go through that and learn from
whether
it
or not it's meant, it may have been that they planned it, but even if it's not, it's always an opportunity to grow and learn. And since we can't make sure that everybody at this point has a great childhood, at least we can honor that, that aspect of ourselves that is able to overcome it and learn from it.
I think that's a good way to look at it, right?
I hope so.
And say, okay, I went through some tough times, but it's going to lead me to something
well, that
better.
Was my experience.
I learned something from that and I move on.
Yes.
And that gives a person some sense of freedom from the past.
Yes.
And also gives them some hope for the future.
And inner strength and self-love and
And I think that's a good way to start. It's just beautiful. Only I didn't have a chance to watch your video, video on your website. Maybe at some point I will.
Sure.
And I think
if it
everybody
feels right,
should.
You will. Yeah.
It's good to explore all different ways to heal oneself. I don't see why so many people are sad. We've even handled a similar topic before. I had the Women's Center people over here.
Yes, I know the Women's Center.
We were discussing things, and we even talked about some celebrity who we think are successful, in so many ways, successful in their profession, well-known around the world, with finance, with everything. And still, you find that in their personal lives, they've been sad and they took their own lives. So it's very interesting to see such tormented people. And I hope everyone can learn and
well, there's
be
definitely
happy.
a lot of torment in the world, and
Thank you very much, Ellen. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
To you.
Thank you, Usha.
Okay.
It was a pleasure. It was fun.
Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this show. If you have any questions, please write to practicaltalktime@yahoo.com. Until next time, goodbye.